Have you ever heard of a military genius who, in just a decade, transformed a small tribe into a mighty empire that challenged the British? I'm talking about Shaka Zulu, one of the most influential and controversial figures in African history. His story isn't just about battles, it's about revolution, innovation, and the birth of a nation. So, grab a seat, and let's dive into the epic tale of the Zulu Kingdom. Our story begins in the late 18th century, in what is now modern-day South Africa. This region was home to hundreds of small Nguni-speaking chiefdoms. Life was largely pastoral, centered around cattle and agriculture. Conflicts were common, but they were usually small-scale, more like ritualized skirmishes than all-out wars. There was no single, unified nation. It was a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and family ties. This was the world Shaka was born into, a world he was destined to shatter and rebuild. Shaka was born around 1787, the illegitimate son of Senzangakona, the chief of a small clan called the Zulu, and a woman named Nandi from a neighboring clan. In that society, his birth status was a source of great shame. He and his mother were outcasts, constantly ridiculed, and forced to move from one community to another. This difficult childhood, filled with hardship and humiliation, forged in him a relentless ambition and a will of iron. It's often said that the fires of adversity forged the strongest steel, and Shaka was a prime example. He was determined to prove his worth and rise above his circumstances. As a young man, Shaka found refuge and opportunity under the rule of a powerful chief named Dingiswayo of the Methwa paramountcy. Dingiswayo was a forward-thinking leader who was already trying to unite the smaller clans. He saw something special in the young, fiercely determined Shaka raw talent for warfare and leadership. Shaka joined Dingiswayo's army, and it was here that his military genius began to shine. He wasn't content with the old ways of fighting. He started experimenting with new tactics and weapons that would soon revolutionize warfare in the region. The traditional weapon of the time was a long, throwable spear called an assegai. Fights often involved warriors standing at a distance, throwing these spears at each other. It was relatively inefficient and resulted in few casualties. Shaka thought this was a waste of time. He envisioned a new kind of warfare, brutal, decisive, and up close. He invented a short stabbing spear with a broad, heavy blade, which he called the ikwa. The name is said to come from the sound it made as it was withdrawn from an enemy-esque body. This wasn't a throwing weapon. It was for close-quarters combat. To use it, a warrior had to be brave, disciplined, and willing to engage the enemy face-to-face. But a new weapon was only part of the equation. Shaka also developed a revolutionary new tactic, the horns of the buffalo formation, or the impi. This formation consisted of three parts. The main force, the chest, would engage the enemy head-on. Two flanking groups, the horns, would encircle the enemy, trapping them. And a reserve force, the loins, would be held back, ready to be deployed wherever they were needed most. This was a sophisticated, coordinated strategy that required immense discipline and training, something unseen in the region before. Shaka was ruthless in his training. He forced his warriors to march barefoot for miles over thorny ground to toughen their feet. He drilled them relentlessly, turning them into a highly disciplined, professional fighting force. He organized his army into age-based regiments, called amabutho. This system broke down old clan loyalties and forged a new, unified identity. You weren't a Dembu or a Kwabe warrior anymore. You were a Zulu warrior, loyal only to Shaka and the state. This military revolution was the engine that would power the rise of the Zulu Kingdom. Around 1816, Shaka's father, Senzangakona, died. With the backing of Dingiswayo, Shaka returned to the Zulu clan and seized the chieftainship. The Zulu were just a small group at this point, maybe 1,500 people. But Shaka had a vision. A few years later, Dingiswayo was killed by a rival chief. Zuid of the Ndwandavis left a massive power vacuum, and Shaka was ready to fill it. He absorbed the Mthethwa army into his own and prepared for the inevitable showdown with Zawid, who was now his main rival. The wars between Shaka Zulu and Zwans and Ndwandu were brutal and marked a period of immense upheaval known as the Mephican, or the Crushing. It was a domino effect of conflict and migration that displaced millions and reshaped the entire political landscape of southern Africa. In two major battles, the Battle of Jikwakli Hill and the Battle of the Malitus River, Shaka's superior tactics and disciplined warriors crushed the larger Ndwande forces. He used the terrain to his advantage, lured his enemies into traps, and unleashed the full fury of his ickle-wielding regiments. With Zwide defeated, Shaka was the undisputed power in the region. He embarked on a relentless campaign of conquest and consolidation. Clans were given a choice: join the Zulu Kingdom or be destroyed. Many chose to join, their men incorporated into the Zulu army and their people assimilated into the growing nation. Within a decade, Shaka had forged a centralized, militaristic empire spanning over 80,000 square miles. He moved his capital to a large settlement called Kwabulawayo, the place of the one who kills. Shaka wasn't just a military leader, he was a nation builder. He implemented social and political reforms to unify his diverse subjects. He promoted the Zulu dialect as the official language and fostered a powerful sense of national identity. The Amabutho system, the age-grade regiments, served not only a military purpose, but also a social one, bringing young men from all over the kingdom together to work on public projects and build a shared sense of purpose. He created a state where promotion was based on merit, not birthright, a radical idea for the time. However, Shaka's reign was also one of immense brutality. He ruled through fear and demanded absolute obedience. Dissent was met with swift and merciless execution. His temper was legendary, and his punishments were cruel. He created a society that was perpetually mobilized for war, which took a heavy toll on his people. The later years of his reign became increasingly tyrannical, especially after the death of his mother, Nandi, in 1827. Shaka was devastated by her death. He plunged the kingdom into a year of forced mourning. No crops could be planted, no milk could be used, the very source of life for a pastoral people. He ordered mass executions of anyone deemed not to be grieving enough. Thousands were killed, and the kingdom was brought to the brink of famine and collapse. This period of madness turned many of his own people against him, including his closest relatives. In 1828, while most of the Zulu army was away on a campaign, Shaka was assassinated by his two half-brothers, Dingaan and Malangana, along with a high-ranking advisor. As he died, it's said that he warned them, "You think you will rule this land, but I see the swallows coming," a prophetic reference to the white settlers who were beginning to arrive in the region. Dingaan then killed his fellow conspirator and seized the throne. But Shaka's legacy was secure. He had created the Zulu Kingdom, a powerful and unified nation that would endure long after his death. The military system he built was so effective that it would later inflict one of the most humiliating defeats in British colonial history. After Shaka, the Zulu Kingdom continued under his half-brother Dingaan, who lacked Shaka's military genius and political skill. His reign was marked by instability and conflict, particularly with the Voortrekkers, Dutch-speaking settlers moving inland. This culminated in the infamous Battle of Blood River in 1838, where a small group of Voortrekkers defeated a massive Zulu army, a major blow to Zulu power. The kingdom saw a period of resurgence under King Empind and later his son, Cetshwayo. By the 1870s, the British Empire saw the independent and powerful Zulu Kingdom as a threat to their ambitions in South Africa. In 1879, they issued an impossible ultimatum to Cetshwayo and then invaded Zululand, sparking the Anglo-Zulu War. Initially, the British were overconfident. They underestimated the Zulu army, which was still using the tactics and organization developed by Shaka 60 years earlier. At the Battle of Isandlwana, the Zulu army, using the classic horns of the buffalo formation, overwhelmed and annihilated a technologically superior British force. It was a stunning victory that sent shockwaves through the British Empire. However, the Zulu victory was short-lived. The British, with their vast resources, sent in a much larger, more carefully led second invasion force. Despite incredible bravery, the Zulu warriors, armed mainly with spears and shields, could not ultimately stand against Gatling guns and modern artillery. The British captured the Zulu capital of Ulundi, and King Cetshwayo was exiled. The Zulu Kingdom was broken up and incorporated into the British colony of Natal. And so, the independent Zulu Kingdom, forged in fire by Shaka, came to an end. But the Zulu people and their culture did not. Shaka's legacy is a complex one. He was a brutal tyrant, but also a visionary leader. He was responsible for immense death and destruction, but he also created a nation and a powerful identity that continues to thrive today. The story of Shaka Zulu is a testament to the power of a single individual to change the course of history, for better and for worse. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the rise and fall of the Zulu Kingdom. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more epic histories, and let me know in the comments what you think about Shaka's controversial legacy. See you next time.